Why do most seniors appear to decline after reaching 80? Even those who were mentally sharp and thriving just a short time earlier often start to deteriorate. Most people believe what happens after 80 is simply about genetic makeup or chance. But that's only part of the story. In this video, we'll examine 5 unexpected factors, frequently overlooked and rarely discussed, that explain why many older adults struggle to maintain health or longevity past 80. These aren't the common factors like nutrition, tobacco use, or physical activity. These are deeper, more subtle elements that often go unnoticed, even in people who've done most things correctly. And the encouraging news is, once you understand what they are, you can take action. So if you've ever wondered what truly interferes with longevity after 80 and how to protect against it while time is still on your side, continue watching until the end of this video, because these 5 unexpected reasons might just transform how you age before it's too late. Now let's begin. Number 1. Loss of micro-social engagement. One of the earliest and most overlooked reasons many elderly people don't survive long after 80 is the silent disappearance of what specialists call micro-social engagement. These aren't your deep friendships or family reunions. Those remain important, of course, but rather the small, seemingly trivial interactions that used to fill your day-to-day life without you even realizing. Consider how frequently you used to greet the mail carrier, exchange a quick laugh with the grocery store cashier, or acknowledge the neighbor walking their dog across the street. Those tiny moments of human contact weren't just pleasant. They were regulating your nervous system, strengthening your sense of community, and keeping your brain's social circuitry active and engaged. But after 80, many older adults stop going to stores themselves. They order online or ask relatives to help. They avoid chatting with strangers because their hearing has diminished, or they stop walking outdoors simply because the weather's slightly too cold or their knees feel unstable. And when those small social touch points begin vanishing, so does something else: vitality. What's fascinating is that most people don't even notice it's happening. They believe they're just simplifying their lives, but what they're actually doing is eliminating the low-intensity social interactions that stimulate brain function, improve mood, and signal to the body that they remain part of the living, breathing, everyday world. It doesn't need to be complicated. I've known men in their 80s who stayed mentally sharp simply because they walked to the same coffee shop each morning, greeted the same staff, and acknowledged the same 3 people on the corner. That 5-minute stretch of human connection wasn't just routine. It was life-sustaining. It structured their days. It kept them accountable. It made them feel recognized. And there's a biological price. When this disappears, the brain interprets loneliness, both the profound kind and the subtle kind, as a stressor. It alters hormone levels, increases inflammation, and weakens immunity. But most critically, it begins to shrink the neural networks responsible for memory, attention, and emotional regulation. Simply put, it makes you feel older, faster. So if you've caught yourself talking less to people during the day, or if you've simply stopped going out for minor errands, stopped initiating casual conversations, or begun feeling invisible in your community, it's time to reverse course, because those moments of connection, even the ones that seem insignificant, are quietly telling your brain and your body you still matter. You're still part of something, and that message is one of the most powerful medicines for staying alive, not just in duration, but in spirit. Number 2, overcautious inactivity. Another silent reason many people don't make it far beyond 80 is something that superficially seems like prudence, being careful, but there's a fine line between being careful and becoming excessively cautious. And once that line is crossed, the consequences are rarely immediate, but always cumulative. It typically begins with good intentions. Perhaps you slipped on the stairs once or nearly lost your balance on the sidewalk, so you decide to reduce your outdoor walking. You stop bending to reach low shelves or climbing into the back seat of the car. You sit down more and you stay seated longer. People around you praise your caution. Don't push yourself, they say. Take it easy. And before you realize it, you've created a life that's safe but stationary. But here's what no one discusses. When movement ceases, so does strength, and not just in your legs or arms, but in your coordination, your balance, your inner stability. Your body isn't like a machine that rests to remain efficient. It's more like a garden that needs continuous attention. And when activity diminishes to a trickle, things don't just remain static, they deteriorate. One of the first areas affected is the core. Most people don't appreciate how crucial those deep trunk muscles are for everything. Standing, walking, lifting, even rising from a chair. If those muscles go unused, even for a few weeks, they atrophy. And when they shrink, your balance suffers. You start to wobble, and the cycle intensifies. I knew a man named Walter, 82, who discontinued his evening walks after he slipped once on a rainy day. No fractures, just a fright. But that fright was sufficient. He transitioned from walking a mile every evening to sitting and watching television most nights. Within 6 months, he lost 10 pounds of muscle. His legs felt like jelly. His doctor cautioned him, but the damage had already begun. Walter didn't stop because he was weak. He became weak because he stopped. Now, I'm not suggesting you ignore genuine risk. There are intelligent ways to protect yourself, using handrails, wearing stable footwear, clearing walkways, even using a cane if it helps. But there's a distinction between managing risk and surrendering to it. When fear dictates your movements, the body begins to forget how to move at all. So if you've noticed you're doing less, not because you physically can't, but because you're afraid of what might occur, pay attention to that. Ask yourself, am I protecting myself or am I slowly disappearing? Because staying alive after 80 isn't just about preventing falls. It's about continuing to move, even if you have to do it more carefully, more slowly, more deliberately. Movement is how the body remembers that it's still needed. It's how your systems remain functional, how your brain stays alert, and how your heart keeps pumping with purpose. And if you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now, let's move forward. Number 3, disrupted sleep cycles from irregular light exposure. There's a silent timekeeper inside your body that doesn't tick, but it governs almost everything: your mood, your metabolism, your immune system, even how your brain repairs itself at night. And after age 80, this internal clock, your circadian rhythm, becomes especially vulnerable. One of the main reasons it goes off track: insufficient light during the day and excessive light at night. You might not detect it initially. Perhaps you've begun sleeping a little more during daylight hours, dozing off in the afternoon sun. Or perhaps you've stopped going outside regularly, particularly in the colder months. You might turn on the television in the evening or keep the lights on until late while reading or watching a movie. Each of these changes might appear harmless, but together they quietly confuse the body about when it's supposed to be alert and when it's supposed to rest. The body depends on natural light to maintain rhythm. Bright morning light tells your brain it's time to awaken, to get moving, to direct energy where it's needed. And darkness at night triggers the release of melatonin, that gentle hormone that prepares you for deep, restorative sleep. But when your eyes don't receive enough of that natural daytime light, or when your evenings are filled with artificial brightness from screens or lamps, your internal signals get confused. The result: you might find it harder to fall asleep or harder to stay asleep. You might wake up feeling foggy even after 8 hours in bed. You might find your energy flagging throughout the day or your memory feeling a little hazier than usual. And over time, that sleep disruption affects more than just your energy. It weakens your immune function, makes your mood less stable, and even increases the risk of cognitive decline. There's also the issue of vitamin D, which the body naturally produces when your skin is exposed to sunlight. After 80, your ability to synthesize vitamin D through the skin decreases, which means regular outdoor exposure becomes even more essential. Without it, your bones, muscles, and immune system all suffer. I once spoke with a woman named Helen, who was 84 and had been feeling increasingly fatigued and disoriented. Her blood work looked normal, her diet hadn't changed, and she wasn't taking any new medications. The breakthrough, her doctor simply recommended she spend 20 minutes every morning sitting by the window with her blinds fully open and to turn off her screens 1 hour before bedtime. Within 2 weeks, her sleep improved. So did her memory. So did her mood. It wasn't a new medication, it was light. So if you've been spending most of your time indoors with the curtains drawn, or if your evenings are filled with blue light from a phone or TV, it's time to adjust. Try to get outside within an hour of waking up, even if it's just for a few minutes on your porch. Allow your eyes and skin to absorb that morning light in the evening dim. The lights let your body prepare to wind down. These gentle rhythms are more than comfort. They are survival. Because what many people don't understand is that the body doesn't just age from wear and tear. It also ages from disorganization, from systems being out of sync and restoring your light cues, your sleep schedule, your daily rhythms. That's how you bring that organization back. That's how. You tell your body, even at 85 years old, we're still on schedule, we're still in motion, we're still here. Number 4, emotional suppression from loss and isolation. By the time many people reach their 80s, they've endured more loss than most younger individuals can imagine. A spouse, a sibling, a lifelong friend, sometimes even a child. And while the outside world may politely offer condolences, what's rarely acknowledged is just how much those losses accumulate. Not just in memory, but in the body. What often happens after 80 isn't just grief. It's emotional suppression. It's the slow, quiet habit of internalizing the pain instead of expressing it, of displaying a brave facade because you feel like you should be accustomed to it by now, or because there's no one left who truly comprehends the depth of what you've lost. But here's the reality. The body doesn't forget when grief isn't processed, when it's not voiced, not shared, not experienced fully. It doesn't simply vanish. It gets stored, and over time, that emotional burden becomes physical. It begins to affect your immune system, your digestion, your sleep. It alters your hormones. It places your nervous system in a constant state of quiet tension. And the hardest part, it happens silently on the outside. You might appear calm. You might even claim you're fine. But if your shoulders have grown somewhat heavier, if your breathing is a bit shallower, if your spark has dimmed just enough that you no longer feel like yourself, grief might be the cause, even if you haven't mentioned it in years. I remember a man named George, 86, who lost his wife of 60 years. He didn't cry much, said it wasn't his nature, said he was managing all right, but within a year, he'd lost weight, stopped attending the senior center, and began experiencing sleep difficulties, not because of illness, but because his body was carrying sorrow it had never been permitted to release. You see, emotional pain doesn't need to be dramatic to be damaging, and by the time it manifests in your health, the connection isn't always evident. What keeps people alive well past 80 often isn't just physical strength. It's emotional ventilation. It's having safe, open channels for sadness, for fear, for longing. It's being able to say, I miss her, or I'm still angry, or I feel alone, and not being judged for it. That kind of release is what allows the heart to breathe again, and when the heart can breathe, the body can heal. That's why people who live long tend to have some kind of outlet. Maybe it's a trusted friend, maybe it's a journal, maybe it's faith or a community group, or even a therapist who helps them unpack the stories they've carried for decades. Whatever the form, the principle is the same. What gets expressed can be transformed. What gets buried festers. So if you've been containing something, not because you want to, but because you didn't know where to direct it. It's time to create space, not just for the sake of your emotions, but for your life. Because the truth is, the heart can only bear so much before it starts to quietly shut down. And if you want to make it well past 80, not just breathing but alive, you have to let it feel too. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 5. Gradual loss of daily purpose. One of the most invisible reasons many people don't thrive past 80 is the slow erosion of something we often take for granted until it's gone. Daily purpose. Not life purpose in some grand philosophical sense, but the simple kind. The kind that motivates you to get out of bed in the morning with something to do. Something to do. Somewhere to go. Someone to see. Purpose doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be watering the plants before the sun gets too intense. It can be feeding the neighborhood cat that waits outside your door. It can be writing a letter to your granddaughter or fixing the hinge on the back gate. But when these little routines start disappearing, when mornings arrive with no reason to move and evenings come without anything worth reflecting on, something inside begins to quietly shut down. The body listens to the mind, and when the mind no longer perceives a reason to push forward, the body follows. Appetite diminishes. Movement slows, and without purpose, the systems that used to regulate your health start to become silent, not because they're damaged, but because they're waiting for a reason to reactivate. It's easy to overlook because it happens gradually. Perhaps your weekly bridge game was cancelled. Perhaps the church group stopped meeting. Perhaps your family visits less frequently, or your old volunteer role ended when your knees started troubling you. You convince yourself it's normal, that it's part of growing older, but deep down, you can sense it, the days merging together, each one quieter than the previous. I once met a woman named Ruth, 88, who seemed more vibrant than most people her age. She wasn't wealthy, she wasn't in flawless health, and she wasn't surrounded by a large family, but she had one thing that never left her routine. Every Monday, she wrote postcards to homebound members in her church. Every Thursday, she prepared soup and froze it for a local shelter. Every day, she sat at her window around 4 p.m. to observe the neighborhood children walking home from school. She knew their names. She waved to them and they waved back. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave her days texture. It gave her heart rhythm. It gave her life continuity. And that's the secret no one reveals. The body remains alive as long as it believes its needed purpose. Even the smallest kind is like fuel. It instructs your cells to keep repairing your organs, to keep functioning your brain, to keep learning. When you lose that sense of relevance, when you feel like your presence no longer matters to anyone or anything, the flame begins to dim. That's why people who live beyond 80 with grace and vitality usually have something anchoring their day. It could be a garden, a pet, a journal, a ritual phone call, a simple morning prayer. What matters isn't the magnitude. It's the consistency. It's knowing that when you open your eyes in the morning, there's a reason to rise. So if you've been feeling somewhat adrift, like your days have lost shape or meaning, don't ignore it. That's not just melancholy. It's a signal your body is requesting rhythm again, for structure, for connection, for purpose. Because ultimately, longevity isn't just about the heart beating. It's about the heart wanting to beat and that quiet desire to continue, to stay connected, to still matter. That's what carries people past 80 and into lives that still feel complete. Final thoughts. As we reach the conclusion of this video, I want to leave you with a simple but powerful truth. Most people don't fade after 80 because of a single event. It's not a diagnosis or a fall or a birthday that suddenly transforms everything. It's the slow, quiet fading of habits, rhythms, and reasons to stay engaged. And often those changes are so subtle, so gradual that you don't realize what's happening until something inside feels dimmer than before. But the encouraging news is this: just as these shifts happen slowly, they can also be reversed slowly. One walk outside, one extra conversation with someone at the store, one small stretch in the morning, one thing you do today, not because you have to, but because it brings structure, connection, or meaning. That's how you begin turning things around. So reflect on the 5 unexpected reasons we covered. Which one surprised you the most? Which one felt uncomfortably familiar? And more importantly, which one are you willing to act on, even in a small way, starting today? Because the truth is, you have more influence than you think, not to stop aging, but to change the way you age. And if you're willing to stay attentive to the quiet shifts, if you're willing to guard your rhythms, protect your purpose, and allow yourself to feel what needs to be felt, then there's a good chance you won't just reach 80. You'll live beyond it fully and deeply on your terms. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to apply it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.